Assalamualaikum everyone. A very good morning and happy Saturday. Welcome to PAM online series. I hope everyone strive to be productive and active over this period. PAM online series is actually the outcome of the MCO that started in March. But when we designed the online series, we planned it as a permanent feature to serve membership and fraternity, architectural fraternity. Just to inform everyone and also to remind all viewers, especially on FB Live, that we have received approval from the Board of Architects Malaysia on CPD points to all our PAM online series, but this is only applicable to viewers via Zoom, not on FB Live. So those who are watching on FB Live, if you require CPD points, you need to log on to Zoom or log on to PAM website to register via Zoom. As part of the requirements, LAM requires a record of continuous participations of those who require CPD points. As such, throughout the session, we will have 2 codes that pop up on your screen. You need to take down or take note on these 2 codes to enable you to complete a set of a questionnaire, a very short questionnaire, via a link which is accessible or made visible to you at the end of the session. So again, if you need a CPD point, you need to log in via Zoom, and you need to fill out the questionnaire that will complete your participation record for CPD point. As mentioned before, online series is designed as a broadcast house or almost like a broadcast center where we fix Thursdays and Saturdays as our broadcast time. So the reason why we put Thursdays at 5 to 7 is actually towards the end of a working time. So for employers who are watching now, please allow your colleagues to access to online series on Thursdays after 5, because this is a very good platform for sharing and disseminate information within the profession. In season 1, which we started in April, ending in May, we completed 5 episodes. These 5 episodes is already uploaded on PAM YouTube channel. So everyone, at YouTube, we have a dedicated PAM channel. Please log on to that to access to all 5 episodes in season 1. Season 1, we covered 3 series, and this series continue in season 2, which is the current season. And while we have that series continue in episode 3 and 4, we have added 4 new series. And today's series is one of the new series introduced under PAM online series. The session today is episode 1 under the series we call In Conversation with PAM. This is, to me, is a very important series. It serves as a platform for PAM Council or those who have contributed to PAM to engage or to have discourse or to get feedback or to convey messages to membership as well as members of the fraternity on current issues or future strategies or recap on what happened in the past or anything like that. So this is the platform. Today's session is actually episode 2 of the series. The conversation of today will be on architectural practice post-COVID-19, and this topic is still very broad, so that's why we will highlight on 3 areas, the profession, the firms, and the individuals. The reason is that to us it's very important that when we set strategies or we want to contribute, we have to look at these 3 levels of platform or angle or perspectives as much as we designed or we push the profession and assist firms to survive. There are a lot of things the individuals can do as well to help to improve economic recovery collectively. I will also like to highlight on on our special event today. It's a preview of the works of architects. It's a video. We have a very special guest today, Datin Rusiah Mohamed. She is a director of MATRADE's Construction and Business Services section. Assalamualaikum, Datin Rusiah. Thanks for being with us today. And I would like also to take this opportunity to give special thanks to MATRADE, because from my observation, MATRADE has been continuously supporting PAM and also the profession in promoting the architectural services, especially overseas. So there are a lot of programs and incentives initiated by MATRADE for the profession. We will have a bit more detail on that later, introduced by our president. So next, I would like to introduce the panel of speakers that we have today. The first is our own president, very own president, architect Lillian Tay. She is a PAM president, current PAM president. She is a director of Veritas Architects Sdn Bhd. Her involvement or her contribution to PAM is actually with a goal, which is to promote the expertise of Malaysian professional architects to contribute and serve the community towards meaningful nation building. So that is a very noble goal. I hope she'll succeed as president in achieving this goal. We have another speaker. We're supposed to have another speaker, key speaker, architect Dr. Mohamed Zulhemlee, and he is a past president, a PAM past president, also a chairman of Research and Future Committee. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us today because he's not feeling very well. So Zul, if you are listening to us, because you cannot watch because you're sensitive to lights, if you're listening to us, I hope you have speediest recovery. And he has conveyed, Architect Zul has conveyed his apologies to everyone for not being able to join us today. Next panel speaker is Architect Almaz Salma Abdul Rahim. She is the chairman of Promotion of Profession Committee, practicing as an architect for 36 years under Almaz Architects Sdn Bhd as managing director. Her focus in the committee is to help elevate the architectural profession and make the profession visible to various agencies, various government department and agencies. With us today, we also have architect Azim Abdul Aziz. His presence today is as a co-chairman of Research and Future Committee. Azim is a principal of AXA Architects Sdn Bhd. He's a fellow member of PAM, has been practicing for 30 years, and for the past 20 years, I think he has been involved with PAM in various committees. So, but his current involvement is on Research and Future Committee. The youngest member of the panel is Architect Teoh. In a way, he's quite he is considered like a superstar for today. He's been contributing a lot in curating the content and managing the content for today. Architect Teoh is the Associate Director at Perunding Alam Bina Sdn Bhd. He has a very keen interest on architectural innovation and its impact to economy. He was part of research team to study long-term economic benefit of Sydney Opera House to Australian economy. So that's quite interesting, David. Without further ado, shall we start? Now I move the console to our president, Architect Lillian Tay. Welcome to online series, Lillian Tay. Over to you now. Lillian, you need to unmute yourself.
Hello and hi, good morning everyone. Thank you for taking time on Saturday for our webinar. This is becoming part of the new normal I think to gather on screen, online, on Zoom or GoToMeeting. In a way, COVID, this webinar like COVID has been one great opportunity actually to bring our community of architects together, especially as we have to face these challenges which we never expected at the beginning of this year. And the effects of this, which is what we would be discussing today with some of our key committees that have been directly dealing with this issue over the last few months. I think many of us were caught unaware. We never thought, despite fighting a slowing market last year, that we would be faced with this unprecedented challenge to our lives, to our health, and to our businesses, to our livelihoods, really, and to the whole nation's economy. I think things look quite positive as it is today. I think overall our country has done a great job, and the focus now, as we are at the end, we hope at the end of the public health crisis, everyone is of course focused on the recovery process. Today I wanted to share with you what PAM and all our committee members at PAM, our council members at PAM, and various committees, in particular, these two committees have been working very hard through the MCO period. We thought at first that it would be, sitting at home waiting it out during the lockdown. But as it turned out, I was glad that the government spearheaded very quickly at the onset the whole recovery process, right from during the MCO period itself. MITI, for instance, and we're glad to have some of the key players at MITI who had steered us through this process. Datin Rusiah from MATRADE, I think Encik Zahid, Puan Azhani and Puan Nurhalisa have been working with us through this period, as they had been in the last year, to help boost our sector, even from last year. And I'm glad that they have joined us in this session today. As you all have experienced, I think COVID really, the whole COVID pandemic and the whole global impact, not just to us, but the whole global ramifications of it to the whole world, has made it a really a life-changing, game-changing event. And we are at the threshold of how we will make good and take advantage of the opportunities that lie ahead. I am not saying that we have all the solutions, but I think the months ahead is very important for our architects, for our industry, to prevail, to persevere through some difficult months ahead. But I'm very optimistic that all the fundamentals that we had as a nation in the industry are strong, and we just need to really have confidence in it, rework it, rebuild it, tweak it as needed in the new consciousness, the new normal, so that we can move on. So I'd like to share with you what we have been doing through these months since MCO. Maybe Salam, you can help me share the slides. Yeah, thank you. Yes, next, yeah. So as mentioned, I really do believe that the whole issue, the whole concern now should be rebuilding for the post-COVID Malaysia, for the post-COVID new normal that we all will face. I think many of us know, but may not even realize how suddenly it all happened, and how Malaysia not just faced the whole public health crisis, but we also had a change of government right at the very same time as this happened. As you know, on the 29th of February, there was a change of government, and barely, and we had a new cabinet, which announced on the 9th of March. And COVID, and the whole MCO had to be announced on the 16th of March. MCO started barely a week after our new cabinet came into place. So a lot of work needed to be done, and I do believe that the government had really focused on it, had worked very hard to steer us through. I myself saw this, instead of sitting at home tending the garden, I ended up having to attend many meetings, some late into the evening and some on weekends, as various ministries such as MITI and the newly set up Economic Action Council at the PM's office, KKR, Lembaga as well. We all had to work to find solutions. First, to deal with how to restart work after works were stopped, and then now on the recovery process. So as early as a week or two after, if you look at the timeline, just so we can understand it all in good perspective, the government came up very quickly with the Prihatin economic stimulus package. The first one was, of course, geared towards relieving individuals, immediate short-term relief to individuals suffering immediate loss of jobs, immediate loss of livelihood. And they followed very quickly, the government followed quickly with the Prihatin SME Plus on the 6th of April, roughly 2 to 3 weeks after the start of the movement control order of the lockdown. This was when we realized, PAM realized, that we needed to ensure that some of these government stimulus measures and relief measures did work for our architects firms. As you know, even though in our whole profession, we have around 1,680 architect firms, of which 81% are actually below 10 persons. By SME Corp's definition, SME is actually below 30 persons, or a few, I think, but we are actually run on particularly small outfits, the nature of architecture design. And I think many of, when we did know that many of these firms immediately were facing difficulties because as all works were suspended, everyone was in lockdown, everyone faced immediate cash flow issues. So some of these Prihatin SME measures we felt were not could not filter down to our companies. So we immediately issued press statements and proposals to the government through the Economic Action Council, to press for measures that would help our firms further. We'll share some of that later. And as you can see, the government had many meetings. MITI started already to have action plan meetings. And very quickly, even within a month after the suspension of works, of construction projects, the government was already looking at how to reopen the key economic sectors. There were many meetings involving the stakeholders in the construction sector to see how works can start to, can restart even as we are facing a state of limited movement during the MCO. As you can see, as early as the 10th of April, which is about 3 weeks after, we were architect firms considered as a key economic sector because construction is such a large part of our GDP, and architects playing a key role, architects, engineers, and quantity surveyors playing a key role in construction works and construction projects, were also allowed to start to apply to reopen. However, there were, as we know, many challenges and obstacles for architects to start work. And it took a while for the SOPs to be developed through various agencies, such as through CIDB, and also through through MKN, the National Security Ministry Council, to develop appropriate SOPs that will be able to protect us from the public health challenges that were prevailing during the pandemic, and yet be able to do business almost as usual. So this was a confusing process where government had to quickly put in place first the application system for companies to operate, and then setting up procedures for so many different industries that had many different ways and procedures. So that caused a lot of delay. And in our industry, we know that there will be many rising disputes at the end of this pandemic health crisis that will have to be dealt with as projects start to rework, and architects will also have to participate to help to mitigate the disputes and ensure what goes on. So as you can see, and I'm sure the slides will be shared later, many meetings with MITI, with EAC, with the Ministry of, we can move the slides. Salam, next. Yeah. We had the opportunity to meet with all the relevant ministries and governments to raise issues of concern to us, and to also submit our proposals on how to help construction professionals, and particularly architects, to get back to business, how to help the firms to survive. At the same time also, we relied a lot on statistics on how architects are doing, and PAM issued one survey in early May to get the information and feedback from architect firms as to how they are coping with the crisis, whether they're receiving fees, whether they're able to pay salaries, whether the projects have come to a standstill, whether they're able to continue working remotely from home. So all of this was our shared experience, I believe, during the months of April and May through June. And even today, many of us are not fully operating, perhaps up to 70–90%. Many of us have also discovered that that working from home also can be an attractive alternative that can be incorporated into the new normal, and we're facing that. So among other things that PAM did, besides the measures for the survival and well-being of our architects, we also embarked on two important CSR initiatives. One was to offer our architects voluntary service to help the government to convert existing government buildings to quarantine centers. This was an effort from our Community and Social Responsibility Committee. And then we also later went on a donation drive to donate 1,000 PPE sets to frontliners at Hospital Sedang. So I think I'm proud that our architects did not lose sight of their, of the responsibilities as fellow citizens to help support and contribute to frontliners. So these were many meetings. We had a chance to meet with the Economics Affairs Minister, Datuk Sri Mustafa. This was where we can move on. We had a chance to relate to him how architects are mainly suffering from the fact that we all have a lot of backlog fees that haven't been paid. I mean, this is a constant in our lives usually, and we have always endured it patiently, but this is a time when it became very difficult. So we put a lot of pressure on this and continue to do so because although the government has come back in the Penjana to encourage all government bodies and GLCs to have much more improved payment terms to the vendors, including architects. I think many of us are still not able to receive outstanding fees that we desperately need to each cash flow. We will be doing further work on this. We will also be issuing soon a survey to track exactly how much fees remain outstanding from pre-MCO period, so that we can put more further requests to the government to expedite the payment of fees. And we also continue to ask for incentives coming forth, perhaps in the budget 2021, to incentivize the private sector to help pay fees. As professionals, we do believe we must do our part, not really reliant on direct wage subsidies and grants from government, but to use our own hard-earned fees and reserves to tide us through this difficult period. Another thing that we raised very early on to the EAC is, as architects strove to work from home, we realized that not all companies, especially being SMEs, small companies with employing 10 people, which are the majority of us, we really needed to, we saw that we didn't have the IT infrastructure to be able to work remotely from home in the most efficient and productive manner. And then this is, so we had very early on, right from April, had asked that the government allow for immediate subsidies, grants, and assistance for companies to upgrade the IT infrastructure to be worked from home. Of course, we don't know at that time how long the COVID MCO would last. But in any case, this is the new normal that we have to be prepared for in the future. So we're glad to see that in the pre-Hatim following, that there are incentives, exactly as we had asked for individuals and companies to equip their people, to equip their staff with laptops and cloud-based computing communication platform for us to be able to work remotely from home, so that we don't suffer a total loss of productivity and total loss of income during such similar crisis in the future, because we all know it may well happen again. Some of the things that came up as we reviewed this also, we saw, there was East Malaysia suffered always a disadvantage in the sense that development there was always hampered by, or hindered slightly by, higher development costs. And so some of it was good that as we reviewed all the things needed to boost development and to boost the whole sector in the building industry sector, we saw some of these long-standing issues that needed to be addressed. Okay. Of course, also another long-standing issue that needs to be addressed that we have now put increased impetus on is the development building permits process. I mean, Malaysia is almost infamous for taking quite a long time, but this is also something that is prevalent in other developing societies and communities. And there is a need to really look into how we can further streamline our approval process to be able to make more efficient the whole building industry. So a lot of work is being done also, is refocused on this area as to how to streamline building permits and authority approval process so that it is not so tedious, because during the COVID crisis, we realized all of this came to a standstill because it was all a very manual process. Even where it is made online, it still stops. You may submit something online, but you still need to produce the hard copies, for instance. So some of these came to light really strongly, and I do believe it's an important time for us to now really to focus on some of these issues that have proven to be an obstacle for us to continue operating in challenging times. Okay, next. Salam, next. Salam is helping me to run the slides because I always mess up when I do it myself. Okay, another of the most important things that we had the chance to present to the government over many forums, to the Economic Action Council, directly to the Prime Minister, who chairs the Economic Action Council, and to MOF, to the Minister of Finance, is that we need to see this boosting of the economy as we go on the embark on the recovery process. That we should rethink our previous emphasis and penchant to do big mega projects, whether it's a huge, tall 100-over-story building or large reclamation projects, that we have perhaps neglected some of our small towns across Malaysia and also our degenerated urban areas, urban public housing that had not had the attention and badly needs that. We badly needs regeneration. So we do hope that, and we have urged the government and mentioned many times, and we hope it would be heard, that the 12 Malaysia plan, and also more immediately, the budget for 2021 that should be announced towards the end of the year, will place a focus on investing in investing in refurbishing our many older public sector buildings, government buildings, local authority buildings, which are all in good condition but highly aged. And this will help to perhaps besides investing in needed regeneration, to create a lot of work to boost the building industry, architects, engineers, surveyors, everyone, contractors as well. After all, we had made commitments for climate action in the Paris Accord that we signed in 2016. And we have set very high targets for reduction of carbon footprint in many of our local plan and structure plans over in the local authorities. And this looks like the right time to do it as we seek to invest in revitalizing our towns and villages. We already had embarked on this with competitions, with proposed competitions to rejuvenate underused wet markets, to make it more appropriate for changing values and changing needs of younger population in small towns. These are some of the projects we had started on, but the need for it, in fact, it does appear to be more urgent post-COVID, when we see the need to make our cities more resilient, and to have development to be more inclusive. So we have proposed this, and we hope that this will come forth in the 12th Malaysia Plan, that there will be a concerted effort to upgrade all the common facilities in various small towns, markets, libraries, community centers, schools, religious buildings, and that hopefully these will generate work to take our architects through the next 1 year. We also have always long emphasized, because we had seen the damning statistics, if I may say, on the trade, the huge trade deficit in the architecture, engineering, and technical services. This statistics always is at the front of my mind, that there is a net deficit of about 3 billion per year, even up to last year. And it had peaked at 7 billion in 2016, which means there is a lot of work, a lot of opportunities for Malaysian architects and engineers that have been lost. And we hope that the government, in this challenging time, will look to put some of this work back home, not just for the survival of our firms, of our Malaysian professionals, Malaysian contractors, but to help these key sectors to build further capacity, to enhance their skills, to be able eventually to export services. In this, we have been highly supported by MITI through MATRADE, through MPC, the Malaysian Productivity Corporation, and PSPN, which is the Professional Services Productivity Nexus. They actually have been working with us for the last few years very aggressively. And I think now, and they have worked with us also, continue through this period on the recovery process towards strengthening the capacity of our industry and also enhancing opportunities for export. Okay, so I think some of these perhaps you can look in further detail. I think I'm running past my time slot. We can move. I think in a way I can summarize at the end. We also saw housing production. That was another issue that we saw as people had to be locked down and having to work from home, whether our homes today are suitable for a post-COVID future where we may suffer or we may have to be quarantined or locked down in some time, and whether families can genuinely work at home. And how to develop appropriate SOPs. We had a chance to meet with our new superhero, our DG from KKM, Dr. Nur Hisham, who even made a special meeting with our construction industry to help us address SOPs to be able to facilitate the operation of our sector. So I think the support from the government was prompt, genuine, and very concerted, and I stand assured that we have a lot of good opportunities to move ahead through this crisis and to even take advantage of this to address some of the shortcomings that had been plaguing us for a long time. So these are some of excerpts from some of the papers. We can move very quickly through this, Salam, where we used statistics, where the statistics we had from our surveys were very important for us to help understand the situation and where the measures are needed. So we were able to analyze what were effective or not really effective for us in some of the Prihatin and Penjana, and we continue actually up to today to write in to ask for meetings with them. We have just asked for a meeting with MOF and also with KPKT to address these issues. Another one that we have to address that's related to our work as architect is measures for the COVID bill. We were happy to, through KKR and through the Minister of Works himself, who met with all the industry, all the organizations in the industry, in our building industry, and through MITI to look at what are the key things that need to go into the COVID bill to help the recovery, to facilitate the recovery process. So we are still hoping to see what goes into it. Next. And we do hope, I think that there will be solutions that will help our architects to administer the disputes that are imminently arising as construction works as construction works resume and all the applications for EOT come in. I think I've mentioned this earlier. Some of these were re-emphasized in further submissions. It is a process from the initial submission to finalizing some of these. As mentioned, this is a good summary. The need to streamline and digitize our approval process, Malaysia First policy, implementing larger number of small projects instead of a few hotspot mega projects. And we were very happy that some of these found its way to the Penjana program that was announced in early June. This is half-term, mid-term measures that will take us to the end of the year. And we were happy that some of those we were asking for a bit of relief on the restrictions to access to wage subsidies, such as the restriction on pay cuts or reduction of work hours were loosened a bit in the Penjana, and they were also for the tax incentives, one of which was also IT incentives of up to 5,000 ringgit per individual. It was something we had asked for from day one. There is also a note to say bye Malaysia, so we are glad that they have heard us and are supporting not just local products, but also local services such as our Malaysian architects and engineers. Here's our Minister of Works, who personally chaired a meeting asking for our submissions and proposals for the 12th Malaysia Plan. I think this is the key work for the next few months. Of course, work has started on it even last year in the previous government and will need to be reviewed post-COVID because of the different needs and different perspectives and the shortcomings revealed in our system that needs to be addressed. So we're looking forward to the next few months as the 12th Malaysia Plan is worked out, how some of these proposals will be carried through. Such as the need to regenerate our small towns and cities to even out development across the country by looking at rejuvenation projects and also addressing the needs for our infrastructure, our public infrastructure to be more resilient, retrofitting our hospitals to be more prepared for a next occasion of when we have a pandemic lockdown, how we can repurpose old buildings, have an inventory or stock of buildings that are ready to be made into quarantine centers if needed. And some of these, I hope, will go and be committed in the 12th Malaysia Plan. So I'm glad to have the support of all our architects towards this agenda that we need to push in the next few months, literally, before they finalize the 12th Malaysia Plan. One of the things also, we need to rethink urban planning to ensure not just our homes and our offices, which of course architects are now very intent to rethink what's needed to make a home and a workplace to be livable, more livable and more workable in times of lockdown. You know, do you need more balconies that we used to have, such that you have some fresh air and sun and more sunlight. When you're locked down, do you need more workplaces for the kids as well as for mom and dad as they work from home? How do we do this when housing is so expensive? How do we create those extra areas? How do we need to restructure our common facilities in our condominiums such that they're usable and not totally locked away during such a lockdown? And how even people in lockdown and as the easing of lockdown happens are able to walk to parks. These are some very basic day-to-day issues that came up to us all as we sat at home and reflected on how life should go on better in the future post-COVID. So I think there will be lots of interesting seminars that PAM is holding, including at the end of the year, we will be holding a mini version of the datum that we had to cancel, and it will very likely address this issue. And of course, I know that it was announced just at the end of June that unemployment in the country has gone up to 6%. It was at 3.9% at the end of March, which was already a historic high in Malaysia. This historic high is so alarming when you hear it. I lived through the post-Asian financial crisis in '97, when it was around 3.7% at the peak, 3.7 to 3.9 also. And we have way past that, which means that the crisis in front of us is even larger than what we had faced before. And it's very alarming because, with a 2% increase in unemployment, we have around 300,000 people who have lost their jobs in those 3 months, in the last 3 months of the MCO. Many of them include architects and graduate architects. As we know, our country graduates around 1,002 architects a year, architects and graduates, part 1 and 2. It will be very hard for these young people, young architects, to be able to move on to the usual track of internship and building their path and journey to become architects. Later on, POP, Almaz will talk a bit about what PAM has to offer to some of these graduates who are facing these challenges of having lost their jobs or are all underemployed, not just unemployed, but underemployed, and how to maintain increased opportunities to build up skills. So we are still working on some of these things, and we're glad also some of the measures we asked for in the COVID bill hopefully will be incorporated. In early June, MITI did ask for organizations, next slide, to submit our proposals for the COVID bill. Next. Oh, sorry, maybe the previous one. And out of the over 300 proposals, they had incorporated, oh, I think I missed that slide, sorry, but they had around 300 proposals from manufacturing and professional services, of which they identified around 6 to be considered for the COVID bill. And one of it is something that PAM had asked for many times, which is that we didn't realize, but we're not the direct health frontliners, but in our jobs administering construction sites, we do face quite an increase in risk, in health risk. And that was one of the things that set back the quick reoperation of both architect firms, engineering firms, as well as construction projects. And we asked, for instance, for the government to consider short-term insurance coverage for jobs that face increased health risk during such crisis, because with that, employers will feel that they have protected their workers. Our architects will feel that they our architects, I think we had a lot of hesitance to fully go back to site, and this will help to be able to reassure our staff and to protect their well-being if we had insurances that will help in the event that they contract pandemic diseases in the future. Of course, now as things are improving, it may not seem necessary, but it needs to, all these social infrastructure needs to be set into place in the system for the future. So I just summarize.
President, yeah, we have to move on.
Okay.
So you can have one minute.
All right, so summarizing what the tasks ahead for us, the COVID bill, I think we need to still pursue that some of these measures are actually included, including how to help us administer the contractual issues. PAM certainly should be taking a lead because we are the one who drafted the PAM building contract that is used for the bulk of projects in the country. Economic recovery plans to ensure that what we have proposed will indeed be retained in the 12 Malaysia plan. Mainly it is to retain, to reduce loss of jobs and to maintain capacity building. And of course to promote our Malaysian expertise, for which later on at the end of this, we are happy to have MITI, Datin Rusiah from MATRADE, to showcase, to promote, to preview a video that we had made to showcase the expertise of our Malaysian architects. So I'm sorry I took so much time, and I think I'm happy to widen the conversation to all the key committees that had been working also industriously supporting this whole PAM's efforts through this time.
So, okay, thanks President Lillian. Thank you very much. It's a very condensed information, and looking at like 3 to 4 months, for the past 3-4 months, we can see that there's a lot of work, and it's quite intensive and rigorous work that has been put up for the proposals to various government agencies and discussions and all that. So I would like to congratulate the team for putting up such a condensed and comprehensive proposal on our behalf. We move on to the next presentation by Architect Azim Abdul Aziz. He is a co-chair of Research and Future Committee. Without further ado, I'm passing the console over to Azim. Please welcome Architect Azim Abdul Aziz. Unmute yourself, Azim.
Okay. Thank you, Wan Sophia. Thank you for having me and to share some all the insights that we've been doing for the last couple of months in the Research and Futures Committee. I'd like to share some slides which would actually explain what we've been doing for the last 8 months or so, and in the middle of COVID pandemic, and because of this, we have done quite a good job, and in this never in our plan for having the pandemic in establishing our Research and Future Committee. Let me look at my slideshow. Can anyone see the slides? The topic that we want to share is towards a collaborative data committee. As you know, PAM has been set up in the 20s and formerly from the Singapore Society of Architects, then Institute of Architects Malaya, which is established in 1931, and from there to FMSA in 49. So whatever you would like to use for the setting up of PAM, it is more than 50 years old, and some is closer to 90 years old. And without our setting up is without having any research or any data that has been collected towards the years. And just to remind ourselves, the research, the mission of PAM is actually to promote the advancement of architecture and architects' profession for the betterment of the society. And it is also to run and to get business of architecture within the code of conduct and scales of fees. So this is the mission of PAM. It has been there for the longest time. And the objectives of PAM, as you can see, is a lot to do with our profession. and knowledge gathering, central organization, and advising governments, discourse, having discourse interaction among architects, and also having members' information, and to preserve integrity and status of the profession. So this has been the objectives of PAM for many, many years, and these are our research of futures objectives. Mind you, we only been established in 2019, and all of us is working towards having data. And the good thing about technology now is that's making it easier and seamless sometimes to get gathering data. And on top of that, I think from now on, I would like to see our profession to get a first-hand data. All this while, when we were setting up this research and future committee, we tend to rely on third-party data, and some of it are not organized in the manner that we would like to use. So I think this is the start, and I hope it will continue from time to time, that we can have accurate data from the profession for the members, and with the data we can advise and inform policymakers, understanding our demographics and our profession, so that we can know how we are doing and how are we, what are the important areas that we are addressing. Understanding the distribution of projects, the value of projects, type of projects, who is doing what, and eventually, I think this will come in very soon to the stakeholders. Economic stakeholders account, especially in the housing, is economic value and architecture profession in relation to the GDP. So all this, while we are depending on CIDB or even the tax department, which never is very correct. And then, most importantly, we are probably hoping to do this in the coming months to ascertain the cost of doing business. We tend to not to know how much it costs to do a certain work, and if the work runs into delays and extension, that is a cost to us. So you might lose at the end of the day lose money because it's extended. And it's also, this is something that I feel that we can do, is to connect members through carrying out surveys to gauge the profession's concern. Some of the members are very shy, and we don't like to voice our opinion out loud, so we can go through surveys. Surveys, technology has been very, very good because through technology, we can do quick surveys, and with the introduction of infographics, and will make the information easier to read and attractive. So this is a little bit of what we did in the last few months. In the first, we need to know what is our profession comprised of. As you know, that our population is 32 million. When I first registered, our population was 20 million. So it's a 12 million increase in the last 30 years. But in the ratio, we have 1 to 14, one architect for 14,000, doesn't change much. When I look back in the number when registered architect during the day, was only about 1 to 14,000. So there's something interesting to know. And later on, we did through the survey, we knew that 70%, 75% of the firms are sole proprietors, and 5% are partnership, and so you're talking about only 30% are body corporates and multidisciplinary, and the proportion of both registered and graduate architects, we can know it's about half and half. Then we can see, this is something that I'll go quickly. The information will be distributed, and also in the Berita. And we can see that, what it will make up. And as you can see that about 80% of the firms, like President Lillian was saying, is 20 firms are 20 and below. And we can, from here we can tabulate. During the MCO, we had to tabulate this staff strength of our profession, including our staff at our office. So we come up with a figure of a staff strength, which is used in our justification to the ministry on how much we need help. And from there, we can with the data. This is the first-hand data, rather than you have to depend on land or depend on other bodies. We can now can see how many years age group and how many years the firm was set up, and the gender and education, where we come, what degree do we take. So it's very important to me, at least in the future, if we have this data from time to time, we can study it in, say, for 10 years, what is the trend. And in all this percentage where are the sole proprietors and the body corporate, the salaried architects, and we can disseminate this information, and we can really study them. And the number of years of practice, you can see that a lot of the firms are either new, about 20% or 30% are new, and some of them are over 20 years of firms. So we can actually track the future trends in our profession and number of architects that is coming into the profession, into practice. And from all this information that we can get, in the future, we want to know that what the value of work that we have, and the salary of our how much we are paid and how much we are taking home, and we can see whether is it enough to run an office, and what is the proper salary in today's days and age, or in future, how architects needs to be paid. Yeah? It also works out later on in the cost of doing business, and also in our scale of fees. I think that's about all of my 5 to 10 minutes that I have, and I'd like to hope that this can continue, and the research in futures community for now on, because we are almost 100 years, and just imagine the amount of data we can collect from year to year for the next 50 years.
Thanks, Azim. Thanks, Azim, for that. That explains why it is important to have this research and future committee. The fundamental, the main key point here is actually that whenever we propose something to the government, PAM are required to present in a more scientific manner, supported by data. So David will be presenting on our the future survey that we need to conduct, and we hope that we get more support from the members in the industry to give their own input. Over to you, David. We need to compress time to allow more engagement with the audience, but you are super good, so carry on.
All right, morning everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday morning. So I'll head right into it. We had a survey done between the 5th and the 10th of May. That is exactly now 2 months ago. Because as our President Lillian was presenting, there are a lot of questions. When every time she goes for a meeting, the officials from the government will be asking for numbers. How affected is your profession, right? So we needed to put this quickly together to support the meetings that Lillian had to attend. So here are some of the things I would like to share. If those who have not seen this survey, it was distributed through the official email channels, and I think after this we can share the link again. So in 5 days, we received responses from 354 firms, and 354 firms is only 22% of a total of 1,608 firms registered with Lembaga. Okay, so what we want moving forward is this. If you look at this, this is the SurveyMonkey formula or algorithm of how they gauge survey accuracy. If you have a sample size of 311 out of 1,608, you will get about 95% accuracy. But if we can increase the sample size to say 471, then we get about 99% accuracy and a 5% margin of error. So if we get more of us to fill up the survey, then it will be a big help for us to respond to information that the government needs to assist us. All right. So here are some of the things we found, and this was, as Lillian shared earlier, was immediately conveyed to government through our slides. So about almost 60% of the firms had no collection during the MCO, and most of us, about 80% of the firms would have 2 to 4 months fees owed as a factor of the salary cost per month. And about 43% of us have jobs which we are owed money by the government or government agencies. So this was something that we asked government to address, because there's something that the government can do immediately. They can release fees to the architects. That will help with cash flow and economic recovery, right? So this was asked 2 months ago. I think it's time for us to review this, because since then all the offices have started to reopen fully. So at the time, 2 months ago, about almost half of the officers surveyed reported that they have only about 1 month of salaries in reserve. This is quite something very pressing that we needed to inform government. And about 23% of the architect firms surveyed was able to sustain the staff salaries for 2 months. So these are the kinds of things which was important to relate to the government. And from May onwards, there will be, if the firms maintain the same salary rates, from May onwards, they would have trouble making the payroll. And most firms, 70% of the firms surveyed, half of their overheads, monthly overheads, were for salaries. And this is something which, if there was no cash flow, they cannot sustain their staff. That's why it was so pressing at that time. And most of the firms agree that, next year will be, the next 12 months will be challenging. Lots of firms experience cancellation of projects. 61% of firms have reported that projects have been cancelled. And there will be decrease of fees, as you can see here, 40% anticipate decrease of fees of over 50% for 2020. And another 37% say that, it's not so bad, maybe 25 to 50% decrease in fees. So these are things which we anticipate that will happen in the year coming, moving forward. Okay, so the outlook is not so bright for the year 2020-2021. And at the time of the survey 2 months ago, we wanted to know how are firms going to be dealing with this, what sort of austerity measures would they be implementing. So 65% of the firms said that they will be considering reduced working days with salary adjustment. And only at the time, 20% of the firms were considering retrenching their staff. That is why the survey coming up is important. We want to know how are firms doing now and what measures have they taken, and as well as how the new measures of the Bencana package, was it helpful for their firms or not? So the thing that we had to relay back to government was 35% of the firms did not want to apply for the Prihatin wage subsidy, because there was a very stringent condition where you cannot retrench and you cannot reduce the salaries if you take this option. So these firms could not take this because they have to be out of pocket to pay the salaries, because they only have a month worth of reserve left, right, as we saw earlier. Okay, so then we polled our architects about what policies would you like the government to implement. So with this, the most popular ones, or we had assumptions, and then our assumptions were confirmed by our membership. So like this one, we tried to ask for reduction of corporate tax, but that was not one of the things that was promised in Bencana. So we conveyed that to government anyway. One of the things that the government was positive about was the need to support IT infrastructure. And you can see from Penjana, they have actually taken this on board. So they've given incentives for people to either buy their own new laptops or mobile phones or things like that. Or if the company were to provide this as a benefit in kind to the employees. So this is like a double tax deduction for those who have received the computer from their office. And this is, what do you call it? To help, the officers to be more mobile, to able to, for the workforce to work from home or to work remotely if needs be. Okay. One of the things that Lillian highlighted earlier was that we would like to lobby the government to provide more jobs to be awarded to local architects, especially the major projects or the major developments that usually GLCs or government would award to foreign architects. We would like this to stop from now on. And we'd also like to get the property sector rolling. So as you can see from the Penjana package, some of the things for the property sector has been rolled out by the government. And the major thing that we wanted from this was for the smaller jobs, for the government to engage with a larger pool of architects to have many smaller jobs across the country and not just the major cities. This was something that Lillian conveyed earlier. So all these statistics, when we're under time pressure, when we go through various meetings, then they'll tell us, look, your slides are too long. Can you just give us one slide to summarize everything? So we had to do single slides, and these things were presented to the EAC and the Prime Minister himself. So wherever we've polled our members, it's been conveyed to the highest levels of government. So the next survey is important because after 2 months, you'd like to know how our firms are doing. And one of the questions which was asked by all these engagements with the various officials, they would like to know what is the fees owed by the government as an actual figure of the fees owed to the architects. And we also want to know what are your client categories, who are you working for in a sense, because we want to know the distribution of the money that's owed to architects based on client groups. And we'll have to feedback to the government very soon about whether or not the Penjana economic stimulus package was effective for architecture firms.
David, can we have 1 more minute?
Yeah, that's it. This is the last slide.
Yeah, okay. We're running out of time.
How PAM can assist the profession to become more resilient. So this survey would be out now. You can fill out this survey. This is the QR code. And after this talk, I think we will be able to share with all our members officially through our channels. So that's all for now. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, David. So I would like to stress and invite members or viewers to actually participate in the survey so that we have a more accurate information to support the proposals submitted by PAM to various government agencies. So we move on to a bit of discussions in detail on the topic or the information or the proposal presented earlier, perhaps on certain areas that we can expound a bit more. The first question that I would like to ask the panel, possibly direct to possibly Almaz to respond to this, or Lillian first, Almaz second. How can government help to sustain construction industry to stimulate as many projects to architectural companies? There are a lot of proposals in the earlier slides, but perhaps you want to expound a bit more and see how soon can this be implemented? How real is the proposal to be accepted by the government?
Yes, as I did mention a few times earlier, we repeatedly have said this to the Economic Action Council, to the Ministry of Finance, to KKR, that government allocations that will go into budget 2021, also RMK 12, should be more evenly spread to ensure the development happens across the whole country and not in hotspots benefiting you know, smaller clusters of architects and population, but to spread it across. And in fact, it's actually a need for some of these buildings, as we know, many of them are run down. So it should not, I hope it should not need too much convincing that many of these buildings are actually also very inefficient and needed to be upgraded. What we hope that because of the COVID crisis and there's a need to rethink the workplace, you know, that the layouts need to be more flexible, such that in future pandemic times, people can still operate partially from the office for needed processes that are still not remote. That officers can still work, workplace is flexible enough to accommodate that. So I think every company, every government agency needs to think about that, and part of these allocations will need to go to make these officers more resilient, and we hope that would also generate work. We have also asked many times in meetings with the government over the past few months that the work that's normally given out under design and build by the government should be given directly to architects consultant, whether on the process of RFPs or design competitions, those which are more prestigious, that are opportunities for architects to showcase their abilities and their design talents, should be made into competitions. Everyone is eager for work in these lean times, and it would be, they will get very good work and then open up opportunities for young talent to come out, for smaller firms that don't have you know, the access to the network to be able to get to jobs, I think, in these times, and basically spread the work around. So I think there was one question there about the registration process. I think it's a good reminder from Rusiah that we should look at the criteria for registration, whether it's not too onerous, you know, if a lot of it is based on experience that local architects may never get. For instance, maybe not how many people have built an airport of a certain size, how many people have built a building of that size. We need to make the criteria realistic to be able to encourage small companies to have access to jobs that they have not done before. Not having done the job, as I like to say, doesn't mean that you can't do it. You have a lot of cumulative experience to do it. I always like to say, and I had a chance to mention this to key people, that Caesar Pelli, when he was selected to do the Petronas Towers, had never done a building that's 88 stories high and two towers at that time as well. So, and he did a very good job. So it doesn't mean that you haven't done it before, that you can't do it. You have, the opportunity must be made more available. So Rusiah's reminder to look at registration requirement is important. We will look into that, to look at all the MOF registration.
Yeah. And I think it's the procurement method, or the way to procure the engagement of architectural services need to be relooked at as well. Almaz, do you want to expound on that further? You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah. I would like to elaborate on what Lillian had mentioned earlier about our proposal to the government to adopt in the RMK12 as well as into the EAC as a COVID-19 stimulus, to generate 1,000 small and medium-sized projects to shift development to secondary cities and towns, to rejuvenate these places and reduce urban migration. How do we do this? Look, there are so many existing hospitals and old buildings that can be retrofitted for future pandemic needs. Wet markets were found to be the source of COVID-19 infection, so a rethink of the design and we can address the problem. Older and underutilized government buildings can be rehabilitated, refurbished and greened to address changing social needs and to conform with Malaysia's GBI to be sustainable. Government rest houses will be revitalized to fill in the void due to the closure of hotels, thus providing employment for hotel staff who had lost their jobs, and to support Cuti-Cuti Malaysia. Low-performing M&E systems, roof insulation, window glazing, light and sanitary fittings need to be replaced to be more energy efficient. Sensors, taps and lighting, rainwater harvesting, solar panels need to be introduced to save and generate water and electricity. IT infrastructure needs to be upgraded to allow school children and university students to continue with classes online. Deteriorating public housing projects need to be rehabilitated to improve amenities in public areas. Government needs to initiate small-scale community projects such as digital libraries and creative centers for children to complement the current public school system, especially for the B40s, to teach coding, video editing, art, music, cooking skills, creative writing, drama, public speaking, woodwork, and farming, to inculcate skills and awareness which otherwise they would not get at home. Community aged care centers should be built to help the younger generation care for the elders while still managing a career and a growing family. Aged care centers could be near tarikas to encourage healthy interaction between the old and the young. So we are looking at community-based and socially responsible projects distributed throughout the country. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the other thing is that government possibly need to provide further or expand on the incentives for private sectors and individual owners as well to do this maintenance, refurbishment, retrofitting and all that. That would add on to stimulate further the economy recovery. The good thing with that on architects is that by retrofitting or improving the quality of the existing building, it creates various type of services that can be involved by the architects. We can be involved in the inspection, recommendations on upgrading, and also in design. So this will offer, various levels of projects possibility to architects. My next question is on more on the system. In view of the slowdown period, can we take charge or turn around by capitalizing this slowdown period in construction industry to focus on ideas and replanning our cities? I think President mentioned a bit just now on relooking at our urban planning and all that, but I'm thinking about consolidating our intellectual capacity and putting detailed proposal to government on ways to improve our built environment and cities planning. Lillian, maybe you'd like to respond to that?
Yes, and actually before the MCO started, we already had in the works two design competitions for our architects and for our graduate architects on these rethinking of public places. One was a competition to rejuvenate a wet market in a small town in Johor. Unfortunately, because of the change of government, we are now having some delays to that. We hope still to be able to redo that project, maybe in a slightly different manner or in a different location. But the objective is the same, to give opportunities for our architects through a design competition to explore this. In fact, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. It's now happening after the pandemic, that we now have to add that layer of thinking into how the market, as we said, we saw it was one of the hot spots during the pandemic, how these traditions in our Malaysian lifestyle can still be maintained and yet be resistant and resilient to, and to have higher hygienic levels across. So I think there's, we will try to assemble the funds and the support from our industry partners to be able to launch a few more competitions, perhaps work also to encourage our local authorities to spend some of the allocation on such projects, as mentioned, community building projects, and also to address this long-term demographic issue on the urban in-migration, massive in-migration to KL that has caused housing costs to shoot up, and poor living conditions in Kuala Lumpur, by making it our good secondary cities, places that people can continue to live and work in. So a lot of work, I think, to bring these competitions and awareness, because local authorities do have the budget. I think if we could engage them in competitions with PAM, then many architects will come in to explore, and we will have the solutions. Not everyone will get the job, but the thinking would be furthered, and the solutions made clear to everyone.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like a collection, putting efforts of our putting efforts and capitalizing on architects' creativity, on our vision, how our cities can be improved. This may not only cover on the physical built environment, but it could be also on the way our cities are managed. I mean, whether should we move into smart cities idea, what would be the best way to do it in order to reduce our capital resources, but increase relying more dependent on IT infrastructure, for example. And I think PAM should move forward and really push the idea across in creating competitions at various levels. It doesn't have to be big, but we should target, like, every month there's a new competition, no matter how small it is, or whatever levels, students level, graduates level, and also practice for architectural firm as well. I think that's a very good idea. So collectively, over 1 year or 2 years, we can put out together as this is our contribution to Malaysian cities, what we think it should happen, something like that.
Yeah. We have already, the government had committed the funds for those 2 competitions that we were supposed to launch just before the MCO. So we can hopefully, roll that out quite soon, quickly. I think also another upskilling and skill building opportunity that PAM offers. Besides design, there is also a lot of services that architects offer. For instance, we do have GBI, the Green Certification System, and we are actually in need of many more facilitators to come in to help us to help certify buildings. So if people who may have a bit more extra time on their hands, this is a good time to go for these courses, refresher courses, or to go for the full certification, such that they can perhaps, if these jobs happen, that the government will be committed to building more green buildings or re-greening their buildings, that this in itself will be also opportunities to build skills in these secondary related areas to architecture design.
That leads to my next question, actually addressing to the individuals. Rather than hoping for governments to do something for us or the companies to do things for the employees, but perhaps there are possibilities how the individuals can capitalize or take advantage of the situation by responding constructively, shifting the focus on capacity building, upskilling ourselves. So maybe, I don't know, is it Almaz or David who would like to expound on that possibilities? What have we thought of that individuals can do to improve capacity?
David should come
on
out
the screen. Yeah, Almaz can answer. It's on the screen.
Can I? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're looking at career options for architects post-COVID-19. Architects are multi-talented, multi-skilled, and multitasking all the time. And so many career options that architects with experience can do. You can go into baking, open a restaurant, go into farming, anything. Everything is totally possible. But we
would like to keep them
We're looking at career options for architects where you're actually using your skills as an architect and to expand it further into the industry rather than just doing work as an architect. So as you can see here, we've got the building inspector as one of the options. This is conducted at PAM Architect Center, and architect Anthony T is probably watching it over here. He definitely requires more architects to join in to be accredited as a building inspector. You need senior architects with immense experience in building and construction, who is articulate in English because they need to write reports. They would like to mentor younger architects. At the moment, there are only 15 active building inspectors with Architect Center. The remuneration is very attractive. RM 3,800 ringgit per day at 400 ringgit per hour. You need to go for accreditation, which requires a 2-day program. where about 20 people will be in the program, and this has been conducted over the past 12 years. So PAM Architect Center really requires building inspectors from the registered architects. Other options are as a mediator, SIPA, adjudicator, or as an arbitrator. There are very few architects in these lines and a lot of lawyers there. Mediators, in the old days, we used to mediate without any formality because that's your responsibility as an architect, but now it's official. The exam is conducted like a mock mediation. It's conducted by the AIAC, the Asian International Arbitration Center. There are fees, but there's no particular scale and it's based on negotiation. As a SIPA adjudicator, you need minimum 7 years experience in the industry. Exams are conducted at AIAC and you get onto the panel and you are appointed according to a rotation system. As an arbitrator, you need 10 years minimum experience on building contracts. There are exams and courses run by the Chartered Institute of Arbitration and AIC. There's something blocking me there. Okay. And PAM is conducting arbitration courses together with the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So this is our building contract. So we're calling out to architects with experience to consider being either a mediator, SIPA adjudicator, or arbitrator. Next is being a GBI facilitator. The really shortage of GBI facilitators among architects. The minimum requirements: a degree holder, a building practitioner, 5 years experience in building industry. The course is conducted by the Malaysian Green Building Council, and the Green Building Index, GSB, require many more GBI facilitators. With experienced architects, you can consider being a visiting lecturer, tutor with universities or colleges. Teach based on your wide experience on building in Malaysia, on construction details, designing for various communities. Example, the B40s, the Orang Asli, and various religious communities. Or you can be a trainer or coach. Make inroads into CIDP perhaps, to train contractors on project management and quality of work. Offer courses to young practitioners on how to manage businesses, how to handle tax, and how to obtain credit facilities. Many people go into the industry after passing the Part 3, not knowing all these and learning as you go along. You could be a writer, a publisher, draw from your wide experience in building Malaysia to write books on building types, climate, specific detailing, the business of architecture, urban planning, green building, and conservation, instead of depending on work coming from overseas. So these are options for senior architects. So I hope they will consider.
Okay, that's very good actually. This is very much possible. President Lillian, I hope that we put this as an agenda under PAM, whereby because to invest, to upskill ourselves, for individual to upskill themselves, they need investment. This is the barrier that I see. So PAM maybe perhaps to push forward to help to get governments to support on personal investment on upskilling themselves so that they can expand or diversify their scope of services. The other good thing about this is that capitalizing on gig economy, whereby now you don't have to be in an establishment to actually offer or to build a career. You can be an individual to build up your career and reputation. What's lacking at the moment is that possibly is that the platform to promote individuals, giving individual services is actually very much lacking locally as well as promoting these services or expertise, individual expertise overseas. So perhaps MATRADE can create another platform where the access to export markets, not only for company exporting, but also individual expertise also can have a direct access to export market. This is good in the sense that we have the advantage in the sense that our cost is lower as compared to other part of the world, and I do believe that our brain, capacity is at the same level. I always say to MATRADE that we cannot compete in terms of company size or in terms of financial capacity, but we can always compete in terms of our creativity and our innovative ability.
I think take this opportunity to highlight also, for those who have, maybe have thought that PAM's courses for arbitration or GBI facilitator or for building inspectors, which are around 2,000 ringgit, the Penjana actually has a grant for unemployed, for those who may have lost their jobs or underemployed, to a training allowance of up to 4,000 per individual, and that will more than cover to some of these courses. The building inspector course is only 2,000. It's not easy for us to reduce the fees, even though there have been requests for that, because the institute is also undergoing a lot of hardship because from the drop in sponsors but do take advantage of these benefits for retraining and also for gig economy, sort of new startups to do things. This 4,000 training allowance per person is something that's available in the Penjana from now to the end of the year for people to take up to do these courses, building inspector, GBI, or arbitrators, or the SIPA course offered by the AIAC.
Okay, good. Shall we move to the main event of today's session, which is the launch or the preview? So I won't say too much on it. I'll let President to do introduction and introduce Datin Rusiah for this launch. Over to you, Lillian.
We have been, over the last few years, highly been supported by MITI, through MATRADE, through MPC, which is the Malaysian Productivity Council Corporation, and the PSPN, which is the Professional Services Productivity Nexus. These are the specific agencies that have been looking to help our profession build capacity and have listened to many of our challenges and have really tried to put in place measures to help promote our profession and promote a better industry with better opportunities for our architects. One of the things that we had embarked upon early this year was a trade mission to Jakarta in March. Unfortunately, it was abruptly cancelled because of MCO, and we hope to still do that again. So for this trade mission, we actually had prepared a video that will showcase the expertise of Malaysian architects and the achievements of the Malaysian architects over the last 50, 70 years that have built the high quality world-class cities that we have. MATRADE, through MPC and PSPN, which mentioned before, had kindly supported the making of this video called The Work of Architects. And I would like to, before we show the video, to have Datin Rusiah Mohamed from MATRADE to say a few words on their much valued and much needed efforts to help promote our architects, especially to bring us out of Malaysia, especially pertinent at this time when our local domestic economy is very highly challenged, to look at opportunities in the region. Datin, please. Welcome, and thank you for taking Saturday morning to join us today and listening to all our challenges this morning.
Thank you, Lillian. Assalamualaikum, a very good afternoon to all. Well, I would say this is my first sort of, joining PAM webinar, and I find it very useful. In fact, in the last remark made by Architect Sophia just now, yes, to certain extent, I totally agree with what you have suggested. And I will take note of all the points that have been highlighted so far in this webinar, and that definitely will be used as our impetus when we want to plan our strategies in promoting our professional services abroad, including, of course, architectural services. Yeah. And then again, thank you very much, Architect Lillian, for all your kind words about MATRADE and myself. Okay. As you all know, Malaysia External Trade Development Corporation is MATRADE, the National Trade Promotion Agency under the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, with the mandate of course, promoting Malaysia enterprises to the world, while at the same time positioning Malaysia as a globally competitive trading nation. So recognizing this, MATRADE, of course, has been working closely with all the relevant trade and industry organizations, as well as professional bodies like PAM, to further expand their presence internationally, especially among their members. Okay, for professional services like architectural services, MATRADE, especially under my section that has been given that mandate, and of course with collaboration effort with PAM, for example, will continue to facilitate the inclusion of Malaysian architects in the global supply chain by participating in what do you call this, all the trade promotional activities that that we plan. And by doing this, we'll hope to see more our players to make their presence visible globally. As you mentioned earlier, yes, especially this year, actually, we plan so many activities that can be benefited from our professional services, including architectural services. But unfortunately, because of the impact of COVID-19, most of this event has been cancelled. And especially for the EM to Jakarta, Indonesia, we still have high hopes, and hopefully, you know, if Jakarta situation will be better off by, I would say, third quarter of the year, we can still proceed to that mission. Hopefully, if not end of November, perhaps beginning of December or even second week of December. We'll see the situation, and I really hope that plan will be realized. So I think we have to pray together so that COVID-19 will be done by then. Yeah. Okay. However, I believe despite whatever the challenges that we face now, including the travel restriction, which have impacted businesses, including our export, we are embarking on other alternative way in promoting our companies overseas, including using virtual platform as what we call now the new norms. Okay, in fact, started after even MCO, even during the MCO, MATRADE has been aggressively promoting Malaysian company via virtual platform. Just an example, to quote, last month alone, talking about June, and if you're looking at ASEAN country only, because we're doing it for all the region, we have managed to arrange about 87 virtual business meeting, arranged between 35 foreign buyers in the ASEAN country, including 9 from Indonesia, with 18 Malaysian company. So through this virtual platform, Malaysian company can still continue to be connected with your potential partners through series of like video conference and according to their product and services requested. But I think what's important too is that this initiative, in fact, is a cost-effective program where both buyers and sellers across the nation, across the world, will still meet without, you know, physically traveling to another countries, and of course at their convenience too. So in addition to that, especially for Indonesia, our MATRADE Jakarta now, we are in discussion with them. In fact, we are planning to organize a webinar session with 2 provincial government investment agencies to explain and share list of immediate projects available for Malaysian participation. Tentatively, this will take place in September 2020. If we can have it earlier, then we have it earlier. So my Trade Commissioner in Jakarta now is working on that, and we once we have confirmed with that arrangement, definitely will inform PAM to inform your members so that all of you will be invited to that webinar session. So this kind of approach will be done throughout the whole year, and not only for Jakarta but also other parts of the world. I think Jakarta here was mentioned because everybody, last year we were so excited about the movement of the capital city, right, from Jakarta to Kalimantan East, and we really want aggressively, promote our architect, especially to be part of to be part of the contributor to that development, and I know some of our Malaysian company has been involved with it, including Veritas. So congratulations for that, and we hope more will follow. That achievement, and that is where we MATRADE will definitely work hand in hand with PAM to make this objective happen. Okay, so yes, I'm glad the video has been done, and so with this production of this video, I strongly believe that it is handy and timely that we can fully utilize on the video to promote the capabilities and the expertise, of our architectural services, and we can do this by leveraging it on all our 46 overseas networks, since we have 46 offices all over the world, not only in Asia but also in Africa, in Europe, and other parts of the world. So this video will definitely become our testimony to some of our global achievement. We should be proud of. So this, I think this is my pleasure and honor, therefore, to launch the review of this video. You call it the work of architect, right? The title is the work of architect, in conjunction with PAM online webinar. And I was made to understand that today is your annual architect KL Kuala Lumpur Architect Festival Design Conference. So I also would like to wish each and every one of our members and all our participants today a fruitful Kuala Lumpur Festival. So with that, thank you very much.
Well, actually, we had to postpone our festival, but at least
really?
we are able to do this launch to have the public and to have everyone reminded of the importance of the work of architects. So
never mind. That will give me another reason to join in the PAM seminar in the future too, right?
Yes, thank you very much, Datin. Okay. So we can watch the video. Oh, full screen, Salma.
Architects are creators, live in.
We are problem solvers.
A determination how the people actually live.
One of the challenges that our architects have always worked with here in Malaysia is how to create an architecture that's both contemporary but is also respectful and rooted in the many, many strong, rich traditions from each of the various ethnic communities. So we have a lot of architects working with that tradition, and we also have architects working in very modern global language, doing buildings that could be anywhere in the world.
Always try to design with cultural identity in mind. If I have to build something in Indonesia, it will be different to Malaysia because the climate is different, the cultures are different, they all are different.
Referring back to
to some of our historic buildings, give you a sense of a better existence and a much more cultured existence. Learning the past to understand the present and to predict the future.
When you do town planning, you're not just talking about a single building, not just physical needs, but mental and social needs. And on top of that, how do you actually imbue the enrichment of society, the enrichment of lifestyle?
Not many countries have had the opportunity to build high-quality, world-class residential townships from scratch. In Malaysia, we have wonderful townships which give people a very good quality of life.
Every place in the world has its own climate. And so designing to respond to climate is the first aspect of green design. Now, there are many architects in Malaysia who are very creatively inventive. They've come up with ideas, with systems, with devices that push for this field of green design.
What the architectural industry is offering or can offer, it can go beyond the geographical boundary of Malaysia. After the Indian Ocean tsunami, at Aceh. So when I was there, the needs for architectural services in rebuilding houses, rebuilding schools, clinics, hospitals, and so on, are very high.
The buildings that you do shall outlive you. So it is not just for yourself and your generation, but it is for the future generation.
Architecture can't just be about design. I believe architecture should involve other people aside from architects. It could be communities, it could be other professions. Currently and will be in the future, that the role of architecture is very diverse.
I do believe that the level of skill is actually very high in our Malaysian community of architects.
So you find that Malaysian architects can also work in other countries, China, Africa, or India, or Australia. Basically because that ability to create. And today, our professionals are working everywhere. Malaysian architecture is a universal service that can be offered.
The most important aspect of architecture is to make people happy. Then your purpose in life as an architect is fulfilled.
You can bring up something, really iconic, and to be remembered and to be enjoyed by the people. Other things can pass, but architecture will stand out.
Okay, thank you very much. We have run way over time, actually. So there are questions from the audience. Some of them actually have been addressed during your presentation. But maybe just quickly, we pick up on one question on SOMF. Do you see the SOMF as part of a strategy for economic recovery? Or we can expand this in the next conversation, but maybe you would like to respond a bit.
Can I answer that? Yeah. Well, since I'm also on the SOMF committee, and yes, it can be part, but I think there are efforts to revisit the SOMF, and it's in the works. And also at the same time, we are working towards the stakeholders account, which actually is part and parcel of the SOMF, but it's now onto the beta testing stage. And because of the pandemic, things are delayed to about a couple of months. And hopefully, it could be widely used, let's say, by end of this year or beginning of next year, so we can know basically how much economic activity in the housing market. This is only for housing yet first, and then at the end of the day, we have to work on our own to tabulate how much it costs to do the business of housing. How much then later on we can interrelate it. One of the weaknesses that we have is to justify our scale of fees, and we need to actually come up with a figure that is doable and can explain to our clients that this is how much we need for our fees. Then people can understand, rather than they just pick up from the sky an amount of fees, a percentage, and throw us and giving us to. Because one thing we do want to do at the end of the day for architects is enter into a contract and then day that you're going to lose money. And not only lose money, but you're going to do such a bad job that you might be reprimanded. That's why I feel.
But Lillian, I think I would like you to answer another question actually, Sabri, because Azim has covered that anyway. We can expound that on another conversation.
Yes.
The two questions that I would like President to respond. This is from Ying Yong Chi. What about salaried architect? If retrenchment is one of the solution, and does it mean that it is not a win-win solution? That's one. And the other is that on item 6 of your presentation on Malaysian first, it is agreed. But the tricky task at hand is how do we change the perception or mindset that Malaysian architects can truly deliver, no less than the international counterparts. Maybe you'd like to respond to that. And then to those viewing, please stay on. We're going to stretch the time a bit. David has another slide to share especially for young architects, right, David? So we have this answer, and then we pass on to David to share his last slide. Yes, Lillian.
Yes, I think Ying's question, of course, coming from graduate architects they perhaps may be very many who may, as mentioned, have reduced work hours, i.e. underemployed, and with suffering salary pay cuts or even be retrenched. Many companies are adversely affected and have to take these measures to survive. I know it's a hard thing to experience when you lose your job. But I think the message I do want to say is that please take this opportunity. The government has been very protective of employees in the Prihatin and in the Penjana. There have been a lot of wage subsidies to ensure people, businesses are able to retain their employees for this first 3 to 6 months. As David showed earlier, many of our companies couldn't take up these because it was also too restrictive. So, but then in the Penjana, they eased it, allowed some pay cuts and reduced work hours to have a more realistic, workable program. So I hope that will ensure that more employers are able to retain the staff. But inevitably, sometimes that happens. It happens to every company, every country. And I think what we mentioned earlier, to take this opportunity to upskill, it's not just architects. If there are fewer projects now, there are a lot of related work that are easy to come to an architect, such as arbitration, because of the fact that we are constantly dealing with administrative contract. Take this opportunity to upskill yourself to some of these supporting services that architects can handle. Green certification, already mentioned by Almaz, we badly need, if we are to achieve our climate action targets in the next 20 years, we need more people who are knowledgeable in green building certification, and we have our program that is actually run by Malaysian Green Building Council. You will get a certificate that allows you to take up work as facilitators, and so this can happen. We've been promoting all these opportunities I think mentioned earlier.
On Malaysian first, Lillian?
Malaysia first, my favorite topic. I think the video itself is a testimony. We were very grateful the MPC and MATRADE and through PSPN, MITI basically, had actually stepped in to help us create that video. They funded the most part of the cost of making that video. Is a start. We have also additional footage to do more videos that are more oriented towards the local market. This one was actually made specifically more for export, but it's basically to showcase what we have always underestimate ourselves, you know. All the time, perhaps what we had done were overshadowed by some of the famous big names floating around, but the works were all delivered by Malaysian architects, engineers, and contractors. Even the Petronas Towers, there were many, many Malaysian architects who worked within KLCC, for instance, and many of these projects. And we've never ever showcased that as a Malaysian achievement. So I do believe we hope that with the accessibility of technology, a lot of small video makers will be able to come up with more videos to showcase the achievements and the real talent that our architects have. There is no lack of talent, no lack of talent. It is a lack of promotion, and that we constantly, and that's the work of PAM, to constantly remind stakeholders, remind clients, remind developers that Malaysian architects are very capable, and that it is also, and that we by giving work to us, that we will generate jobs as well. We are very value-added business, actually. One architect, statistically as shown in our PAM research, one architect basically generates 4 to 5 jobs compared to one engineer who would normally generate 1.5 jobs per engineer. This is data. I mean, there are around 35,000 people involved in employed by architect firms, and out of the over 110,000 people in the building construction professional services. So it is quite a core. So I will continue to promote the abilities through, and as mentioned, we had talked about design competitions to further enhance opportunities. Our PAM awards, as you can see on PAM social media, we try to promote all our award winners. So do take advantage of some of these promotional activities.
Okay, I think David would like to expand a bit on. He would like to share his
I would like to, I'll just show this slide to the, this one is for, I'd like to highlight this slide to the employers, because I think a lot of people are not aware of the items in the Penjana booklet. I hope that after this, we can share it with all our members as part of this webinar links after in Facebook Live and all that. For the employers, please be aware that there's a lot of things you can help out with the young graduates. For example, those who are applying for apprenticeships or school leaders or graduates, you can get 600 ringgit per month support from the government. And for those employers that can offer jobs to those below 40 years old, there's also this 800 per month, what they call assistance from the government. And then there's people with disabilities, and those above 40 years old, so there's another 1,000 per month employment support from the government. So please look up what's happening with the Penjana package and how we can, how all of us can help those who are unemployed and not necessarily, just relying on the government. But there's a lot of talent out there. It's just that the officers cannot support the payroll, and they have to let go of some of their staff. So another thing I'd like to highlight is in the last year, the graduate committee, they've had this monthly town hall meetings on the first Wednesday of every month. And in the last year, there was lots of programs catered to graduates, for them to meet other graduates as well. There was a career fair that happened last year in November, and there were career clinics and things like that where you can have speed dating interviews with potential employers. And I hope that the graduate committee continues some of these initiatives in the coming term. I had a dinner on Wednesday with a few young architects and practitioners. There's lots of opportunities for those trained in BIM moving forward. Please register as a technologist with Lembaga, because once you're on this technologist list, it is quite likely in the future when there's tenders from the government to employ BIM specialists, you're registered as a technologist in the board. So that becomes something which we can look forward to in the future. So another thing that is very important for officers, please engage your younger staff, because as we are well aware, due to the after the MCO, a lot of these new technologies had to be implemented almost overnight. And for us to become resilient, I think younger members of our profession, please also step up and volunteer or have these conversations with your employers about how you can better contribute to make our firms resilient moving forward. I think that's all for me.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, David. I think we have way stretched our time, but it is good. It has been very condensed, rigorous, and informative. I hope it's very useful. At least it's an eye-opener to those viewing. If you want more details, you can download the slides or contact either pamonlineseries@gmail.com. We will try to direct your questions to respective committee. Thank you very much, Datin Rusiah, for being with us today. Thank you very much for the collaboration on the video. Thanks, President, for extensive effort. And thanks to the team, Azim, Almaz, and David for supporting PAM Online series. So we definitely would like to offer the team again to have another session, another episode on In Conversation with PAM. So we'll fix a date on this. So thank you very much, audience, participations, viewers, and all that. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I do. I think it's very productive session. So enjoy your weekend, stay productive, be active, and help to contribute at PAM. So I'm Wan Sofia Wan Ishak, signing off as Chairman of CPD Committee. Thank you very much. Over to you, Salam.